Hello and welcome to this workshop on embodied presence. I would like to help you see that you can go from awareness to showing up how you intend in most things in life, really. My name is Katrina Horn and I'm a life coach. I'm thrilled that you're here. If you're here live, please feel free to use the chat. If you're watching this on the replay over on YouTube, you can still comment. And I would always love to read your comments, so please don't hesitate. I'm going to take you through like the 6 steps you perhaps are doing that is keeping you stuck in that sort of intellectual knowledge where you can spot your patterns, you can see your overthinking, you can see where you're not setting boundaries, you can notice your people pleasing, all of that, but nothing is really changing. And if you can see what it is you're doing and what you could be doing instead, that might really help you out to create something completely different. As I'm used to saying, information is not transformation. So there's a whole part we have to be also focusing on. And I hope to make that really evident for you. At the end of this session, I'll be presenting you my new online program. It's called Genuine, Fully Expressed, Fully Embodied. So I'll talk to you about that at the end to see if it could be something for you to consider. This is where we take everything I'm talking about a lot deeper. It's a 12-week program, but I'll tell you all about that when we get there. For the moment, I want to just talk a little bit about what I mean by embodiment, because I think lots of people use it. And what does it even mean? It's like that sort of coach talk that we don't really know what is in real life. So, if you don't know me, you might not know that I used to be on stage. I used to be a musician. I used to both play and sing on stage. And what I did there was perform. And you can say, of course you perform because you're on stage. But I think you can take my examples and really transfer them onto situations from your life and perhaps recognize that, oh, yes, I am performing. And where's the problem with that? Well, the problem here is that we are not being ourselves when we perform. Can you see that? So I could be interpreting, I particularly remember playing Nora from an Ibsen play. That was a role I loved. But I was not Nora. I was playing her. I was interpreting her. It was a performance. So sometimes in life, we really take on those roles, don't we? We start identifying with some labels we took on sometime, often early in life. We took on these labels, roles, definitions, and we started really identifying with them at a time where we couldn't do it consciously. And that's what we're stirring up here. We're just really looking at, well, if I embody who I really am, if I embody this presence, if I'm being me, like full time, well, then what's different? What's different is that you won't be monitoring you. So when you're speaking to somebody, you won't be sort of checking in with, how do I sound? Or if you're setting a boundary, you won't be thinking about, am I being too much? Is this too much to ask? Like it would be much more just feeling natural. It would feel like flow. It will feel like expression of who you really are without having that centering self-talk going on some of the time. And I often talk a lot about being at your best. And to me, again, that is not about performance. It's really about looking at, who am I when I'm with my friends, when I'm relaxed, I'm being unguarded. I feel I can say whatever comes to my mind. I feel I can do whatever I feel like doing. I think that is, well, I know that is who we are at our best. And so if we could only allow ourselves to be that all of the time, then what would be different? So maybe you're not new to self-development. Maybe you've already really dove in here and you've figured out a lot about things, and yet you're not really seeing the results. You're not seeing the changes you want in your life, or you're not seeing them happen fast enough. So whatever I'm going to say now is not to tell you that you're wrong or that what you're doing you shouldn't have been doing or anything like that. It's just like, let's just stop here and start asking some different questions and start sourcing our inspiration for change elsewhere, right? So this is what I'm going to share with you. As I said, feel free to use the chat if you find that you want to comment or you've got a question. I'm going to take you through 6 stages that can happen when we want to find out more how we can direct our lives, where we can stop just reacting to circumstances, but actually direct our lives. It starts with feedback from life, really. So my first stage is something happens in life, and it could be this doesn't feel good. So all our emotions are really there to inform us about whether we like this experience or we don't, very basically speaking. It's just information. So let's say you know somebody who's called John. Let's say he walks all over you. So when that happens, you get to feel, oh, this doesn't feel very good. So that's your input. That's your feedback from real life. Now, what could be happening is that you think, oh, I don't want John to walk all over me. I must set some boundaries with John. Let me find out how I set effective boundaries. And then your next step, step number 3, is that you go into analyzing the situation. You get a lot of thoughts in your mind, and then you start moving around with these thoughts. And I say you, I could say we start thinking, oh, I'm really working on this problem now because I'm analyzing it and I'm finding all the weak points and I'm finding all the things that I'm doing wrong. I'm finding all the things that John is doing wrong. And I can really see this very clearly, right? Do you recognize that? This overthinking where we analyze everything. And the reason we do that is it's very, very comforting because we feel we've got control because we're doing something. I am finding out more. I'm understanding more. I can see what's happening. That feels good. And when we feel in control, then we can start feeling safe. And that's really what we want. But the safety you get from control is not the real safety. So let's say that you learn how to set effective boundaries and you set them with John. You feel in control. It's sort of a control that you have to manipulate, right? You have to get yourself ready to set those boundaries and then you have to enforce them, right? You're sort of, yeah, let me brace against next time John wants to walk all over me. Now I've got those boundaries in place, so he won't be able to. I'm the guarantee of that, and I can protect myself, and I've got my boundaries and all of that. And the problem here is that it doesn't feel very good. And another problem is that it doesn't keep you safe because John can still walk all over you because you don't control John. So I hope this is clear. It's a lot of information, but if you just sort of reflect on it for 2 seconds, like, oh, okay, I feel in control, and that feels better than feeling out of control. I believe that I'm safer because I am in control. But is that really good enough? Is that really good enough? And I would say, no, it's not good enough. Because if you're not feeling really safe, like completely safe, well, then we're just skirting around on the surface. So what has happened here is that from the realization, from the observance, from the input of real life, you've decided to put in place some really effective boundaries. You put them in place. Sorry. So now you have modified your behavior. Let me just take a sip of water. Sorry, I thought my cough had gone. It's all this talking. But let's look at your behavior. You have learnt how to set effective boundaries, but that is a little bit of a manipulation. And it's what I call the performance. So you're out micromanaging life, putting up little boundaries or big boundaries. Maybe you've gone on to learn communication so that now you can use your skills in manipulation. I call it manipulation, but we can call it communication. But really, when we are saying something in order to get a reaction that we want from another person, well, it's really also manipulation. So that doesn't feel very safe either, does it? I mean, I might be sort of using very strong words, but when you look at it, if I'm saying something in order to make another person react in a particular way that I want them to react in, I call that manipulation. I mean, might be for a good cause, but it's still some kind of manipulation. And that just adds on another layer to the false security that we are trying to build up around ourselves. So when you look at it out from the outside, you can see, oh, I worked on myself. I learned how to set boundaries. I learned to communicate. And still it's not enough. So you could still be feeling that I don't fully control the situation, and you would be right because you don't, because you still don't control John and you still don't control the situation. So it gives you this. That's my sixth step, really, that false sense of security that can so easily be shattered. And every time that sense of security gets shattered, you retreat a little bit more from life. You start thinking, well, actually, I'm not safe because I remembered when I was married to Larry, he used to do this and that didn't feel good. And then I got divorced, and then I had to put up with blah, 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 and that didn't feel good. And so you start memorizing in your mind all the times when things didn't work out for you. So, this full sense of security, I think that we all know that it's not real security. And why do I talk about security? It's because we want to really build up a completely different kind of security. I call that, and lots of other people call that psychological safety. And that is the place from which you can access what we also call in coach speak authenticity. And what does that even mean? Again, right? We can go into that too. But it's really difficult um, to feel a sense of I am safe when you have built up your sense of safety based on control. Because you're onto yourself really, and you can see how you're not controlling something. You can see all the little leakages that there are. So you can't really feel safe. So my idea is that instead of going into the analysis, so let's rewind and play the whole thing out again. I get feedback from my life, stage number one, where it didn't feel good to have John walk all over me. I noticed that didn't feel good at all. So instead of instead of going into analysis, I just sit with it. I just sit with it and feel, oh, that didn't feel good at all. Really, I would prefer to feel good. So if you are, well, this is a very like black or white. You're either feeling good or bad, which is just something that makes the whole process clearer. So let's just stay with that for a minute. If you were, well, having John walk all over you had you feel not good. And instead of analyzing the situation, instead of blaming yourself, instead of blaming John, instead of blaming somebody else, you're just with the emotion that you perhaps felt slighted. What can I call it? Dismissed, not important, all those feelings. So you can just be with them without making it mean so much. So where you want to go from here is really just to be clear that, sorry, you can't control John, and really you don't want to control John, because what would be the point? What would be the point of trying to control somebody? Would that make you feel good? It wouldn't, it really wouldn't. So you recognize that, oh, actually, my choice here is either I get John out of my life, or I just look at really in this moment with John walking all over me, I'm safe. In fact, I'm still here, right? Let me just cough again. So if you can regulate your nervous system into the gear where you don't make John's behavior mean anything about you and your safety. You just make it mean, do I like this or don't I like it? There is no need for analysis. There is no need for explanation. There's no need for justification or proof. Yes, thank you, Sharon. It is. If we can just be with the idea that, okay, John walked all over me and I'm safe. Then we take away the weight of having to go in and manipulate the situation. We can take away the pressure to go and control. And really, if you want to go deeper into this work, can I recommend you look up Byron Katie? Byron Katie. She really takes this to an extreme. And I love her work. It has given me so much peace. It helps us just release any desire for controlling anybody, for going in and starting to micromanage any situation or any person. And we can do that. We can be supported in that, let's say so, when we get really focused on ourselves. When we take responsibility for everything that happens around us, and that can sound completely crazy, but I'm going to explain that. It really gives us so much peace of mind. So instead of trying to influence outcomes or people, what if your embodied presence could actually help you be with the whole thing differently? And that in and of itself would also have everybody else's experience completely change. What if that was possible? So to help you understand or imagine this, think about your favorite actor. I don't know, anybody you love seeing on stage, on the screen, like your favorite actor. Think of them. And then tell me, do you enjoy them? Do you enjoy them for what they're speaking, what they're saying? Or are you enjoying them because of their presence? Really? Why is it that you feel drawn to them? Because you don't really intimately know them, do you? So you can't say, oh, I love blah, 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 because you're used to talking to them every day. Like they're so far at a distance that you don't actually know them personally. And yet you would say, yes, I'm really drawn to them. So of course that could be a sexual attraction, but it could also be something different. Like choose the sex that you're not attracted to, and then look at an actor like that. Look at the actor and say, actually, I don't know why I like them. I don't know why I'm attracted. I think it's a little bit about this, and I think it's a little bit about that. But it really defies my analysis. I can't analyze exactly why I'm drawn to that person. When I fall in love with a person, I can't exactly say, oh, here are the 3 factors that made me fall in love with this person. Right? That would be absurd. So why am I saying that? Well, to help you see that in our interactions with the world and people in it, it's not about what we do. It's not about setting the boundaries. It's much more about our state of being, about who we are or whom we believe ourselves to be. So when I talk to you about being on the stage, and when I stopped being on the stage and I changed my stage for a classroom where I was a teacher, I just very quickly realized that I could no longer perform. I could simply no longer perform. I had to be myself because otherwise there was no communication possible between me as a teacher and the little kiddos. Let me just let somebody in here. So when I saw that I actually had to be myself, I had to get very, very secure. I had to feel safe in me being me. I had to really take all the manipulation off, all the micromanagement off, all the living up to or pleasing I had in me. I had to take that off and feel safe being myself. And so that really brings me to what I would love for you to take away from this session, and that is your first stop on changing anything in your life permanently is to look at who you think you are. It is identity, and it is creating the psychological safety in that. It is like, how can I say that? The emotional management that you can practice so that you feel free to just be yourself and you feel that that is safe. So you might ask me, well, how does that stop John from walking all over me? And can I just say, I don't know. I don't know how it stops John from walking all over you, but it does. And of course, we can explain it in some ways, but really, I think fundamentally, we still don't know why. We really don't know how our state of being, how that influences people. Maybe you know more of science than I do, and maybe you know how it is explained, but let me give you a few pointers or a few bits and bobs that I know, that I have read about and that I have practiced. So in psychology, we talk about projection. So we project things onto people and onto circumstances. And I see that as a mirror. So whatever insecurities I've got, I am projecting them out onto people and circumstances, and they're being mirrored back to me. So that's a sort of psychological explanation. I really always, for myself, I look at this mirror that whenever I'm triggered, let's say John is walking all over me, I can look at that event. And of course, I can feel my feelings and everything. But really, if I'm triggered, it's because it's stirring up something that is inside of me. And John just happened to be the person to reveal that to me. So if I'm being triggered by John's behavior, then I can just go inside and look at, oh, how does that feel? And then I have to be onto myself because I don't want to go into my analytical brain. I don't want to pick this apart and go back into my childhood and say, oh, it was my dad, he used to blah, 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 or it was my second grade teacher who told me that, blah, blah, blah. Our intellectual mind has filtered things in our lives, all through our lives. We have been constantly filtering all the information, and only some of it got stored in our conscious mind, in our intellectual mind, and that is what we can remember. That is what we can call up. But the problem with this information is that it has been interpreted. We have assigned meaning to it. We have made up stories about it. And all the other information that we can't remember consciously is stored in our subconscious. And that is by far like so much more information. So whatever I start manipulating from my intellect is just the top of the iceberg. So why bother? Really, why bother? I think we can bother a little bit because it satisfies our ego. We like to understand that, okay, this is how I feel because that happened in my life. But that is sort of a purely intellectual pleasure. It doesn't, as I keep saying, change anything in real life, does it? So why not, instead of analyzing, why not just be with the fact or with the emotions of John walking all over me? And then I can talk to myself about that. I can really be with it. But I'm not a very intellectual person. I'm just much more of a practical person. So often I can't put words on things. I don't know. Does that happen to you too? That you can't quite name it. You can't adequately describe something you're feeling or a situation or a circumstance. You've got that sort of just download of what it is. That really happens to me a lot. And if I can just be with that, without explaining, without justifying, without overthinking it, really. And if I can stop myself from putting meaning on it, I believe that is what sets me free. I have just let myself off the hook. I don't have to go out and do a lot about it. I don't have to influence John to be different. I don't have to go out and study boundary setting or communication. I can just say, okay, John walked all over me. What is that reflecting in me? What is that signaling in me? And I would say, I don't like that. I prefer something different. And then this thing happens that I can't quite explain. But when we change, people change or their behavior changes. Have you noticed that? Have you noticed when you start thinking differently about somebody? Well, they start changing, don't they? So there's so much more going on that we can intellectually apprehend. And so why get so over involved with it, is what I'm saying. What if we could just be with our emotions and then say, oh, I really don't like it when John walks all over me. I really don't enjoy that. But I'm safe. I really am. And of course, I'm not saying you are safe if somebody's holding you at gunpoint. So please don't make me say something I didn't say. It's not in real life threatening circumstances. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those everyday instances where our nervous system gets triggered. When our nervous system is triggered, we don't feel safe. It is our fundamental safety that has been shaken. So we are the ones to ensure that our safety is always there, right? That we are always safe. But instead of relying on other people to behave in certain ways, or our bank accounts to look in a certain way, or anything external, the surest safety, like your best bet, is to create it for yourself. So that is really emotional regulation. That is creating that safety for yourself in all situations. I am perfectly safe. I'm safe even when, and then you can just insert the circumstance where other people get on your nerves, like when you are triggered either by a situation or a person. But really, if you can always come back to the place where you know, I'm safe. This is not a situation I'm enjoying, but I must admit, I'm safe. And the less I start making up stories around it, the easier it will be for me to feel good. And that sounds perhaps a little bit trite, but isn't that the whole point of life? Isn't that to be enjoying life, to like life, to like get up in the morning and then believe you're going to enjoy your day, that you're not going to be triggered. And if you're triggered, it's not a fight and flight situation. It's just like, oh, I'm triggered. Let me get curious. Let me get really curious. Oh, really? And so, of course, you can have little, what can I call it? Um, they're not what's it called? Band-aids? That's not what I mean, but little screws you can turn around and to change a lot of situations. Like on Insight Timer, I talk to them a lot about the questions I ask myself. And I often ask people, what made you say that? Or what made you do that? Because if I'm somehow triggered, if somebody does something that I don't approve of, then I can get curious about it. I don't have to be offended. Like, I don't have to make it mean that they don't respect me or something like that. I can just ask them, what made you say that? What made you do that? And then they can let me know. Sometimes they don't know, right? It's just we're all sort of in this defense mechanism world where we're just thinking we have to protect ourselves a lot from the outside world. So we can go into that fight and flight mode of operations, really, but that doesn't feel good. And that is my point. It feels much better to be emotionally well regulated. And that is a state in which you are embodying presence because you are here. You're not in the story making chapter, right? You're not in the analyzing, you're not in the overthinking. You are in the present moment, embodied as who you really are, right here, right now. And that can feel really safe. So I think we've all experienced moments where we physically didn't feel safe, like we were afraid for our lives. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all the rest. The times where people trigger us or we feel slighted or we said, oh, I didn't get that promotion. I should have. Something is wrong. That is what, with my clients, we call that arguing with reality. Well, it happens. So why get upset about it? Let's get curious instead. So coming back to what I chose to call this workshop, which is embodied presence from awareness to how you show up. It's not enough to recognize your triggers. It's really, instead of analyzing them, instead of explaining them or justifying them, it is really accepting that they're triggering you, and it's showing you a mirror for something that's going on inside of you. And because it's going on inside of you, it means that only you can change it. So once you've had an awareness of something you don't like, something you want to change, it could also be an awareness of something you like and something you want more of. it really is the same. It's just recognizing that I prefer this to that. And then how can I have more of that? Really. And I think that's just what life is. It's like finding out what do I enjoy and then letting yourself have more of that, basically speaking. I mean, we could talk a lot about what life is, but to me, it's just like getting clear on my preferences. I call them dreams, like desires. What do I really want? And then just allowing myself to want it, just to want it and then go and get it, really, basically. But let me not get lost in that. What I want you to consider is that you have to take this out into real life. But if you're taking it out into real life, this desire for change, from the space of I have to defend myself, I have to brace against something, you will be only changing things on the surface. And if you get yourself into the place where you embody your own safety, where you are completely safe in who you are, that is where you can start changing things. And it doesn't really demand a lot of effort. The only, I would say, effort involved is getting your nervous system to calm down, to get that monkey mind into gear. It's not coming up with fearful scenarios, and where it's not putting fearful meaning onto things, where it's not just about negativity in your brain. Really, it's not about analyzing life. It's much more about participating in it. So to do that, the hardest thing for my clients is to calm down. And when I say calm down, it's not just to sit down and not do anything. It's really to be in a space where we can let go of control. Because what we have to train ourselves into knowing is that I'm safe without control. I don't need to control people. I don't need to control circumstances. Don't need to control anything because I was made for this. I was particularly built for this. I was meant to live through life. I mean, I was meant for this. So, of course, we will all be going through difficult moments in life, but isn't that okay? Isn't that okay so that we can grow through them? What if I don't have to brace against them? And what if when a difficulty arises, I know that I've got everything I need and more to overcome the difficulty and come out on the other side bigger, better, stronger. Isn't that fabulous? Because a lot of the apprehension we have when we are going through difficult times are all the thoughts we make up around them, all the stories we tell, right? So if you're going through financial struggles, you could be saying, oh, I did something wrong in the past. Now I don't have enough money. I will never have enough money. It's my boss's fault. He should be paying me more, or whatever it is. It's all those stories that we make up that really makes up for the bulk of the suffering. So if you could approach life just with the idea that I'm perfectly safe, I'm safe without controlling things I can't control anyway. I'm safe without attempting control. I'm safe without people behaving exactly how I want them to behave. I'm safe. And then from that place, decide what you prefer. I hope that makes sense. Let me have a glass of water before I move on. And feel free to comment or ask me questions. I know I think maybe in my workshops I give out too much information, and I think my coach would tell me, don't give so much information. I just find it really, how can we talk about anything really if we don't go a little bit deep? So let me have a look at the chat. Yes, exactly. So, hmm, I can read you a quote I found by Emily Hancock, which describes really what I want to move on to, which she says, Emily Hancock, many women today feel a sadness we cannot name. Though we accomplish much of what we set out to do, we sense that something is missing in our lives and fruitlessly search out there for the answers. What's often wrong is that we are disconnected from an authentic sense of self. And can I just talk for 2 minutes on that authentic sense of self? We often identify with our ego mind, and if you're not into spirituality, um, maybe you can just accept that our ego self is a part of us that relies on logic and that has been completely conditioned by where we grew up and the parents we had and the experiences we had. So I just thought of an example before this workshop. When I was little, um, I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be an architect. I knew that existed because my aunt was an architect. But then people told me, well, do you know, look at her. She's just designing schools and elderly people's homes, and that's really boring. And I thought, yes, I didn't like schools. So I thought, I don't want to be drawing or designing schools. No, thank you. So I thought, no, I'm not going to be an architect. So that was a very limited vision. Do you see? Had I known that perhaps there are other architects who design people's homes, then maybe I would say, yes, please, can I have that? But I think also, had I known that interior designers existed, I would have said, yes, please. I didn't know that existed, so I couldn't choose it. My point is, we have been conditioned into the self we identify with through what we have experienced in life. But we are an endless ocean of possibilities. We can be so many things. I don't want to say anything because I don't think I could become a ballet dancer at 58, but we can be so many things. We are full of potential. So if that is true, what if I connect more with that potential than with what has been pre-designed? What if I just start looking at my ideas as completely limited because they're limited by the experiences I've already had in life? So without wanting to become a multi-billionaire or whatever it is we want these days, what if I could just get really, really clear on my preferences, on my desires? And what if actually following those would lead me to my greatest potential? Without any preconceived ideas, is what I'm saying. Cynthia asks, how do you stop self-sabotage? For example, I declutter, then clutter back. Yes, I lose weight, then I gain it back. Yes, Cynthia, because your identity hasn't changed, basically. You still see yourself in the same way. You haven't shifted the identity part, that's all. I mean, I say that's all, but that's everything, really. So thank you for asking that question because it perfectly illustrates this idea that, oh, to stop John walking all over me, I can set in boundaries, I can study boundaries, I can study communication, and those band-aids will help me cope. But it's still coping. It's not a full expression of who we are. Do you see that or not? Let me know in the chat. I think it's about giving myself permission, yes, to just sit with things. Exactly. I feel I'm conditioned to analyze and find a reason. Yes, it's exhausting. And do you know what? That is like, I think 95% of us. I think that we have been conditioned into believing as responsible women that the responsible thing is to work it out intellectually. Let me make sure I see everything. Let me make sure I've analyzed any eventuality. That is the responsible thing to do. It would be completely irresponsible if I just went with a hunch, if I just went with a desire, I think. Yeah, I know this paradigm so well. I know that by heart. I still have to remind myself, Katrina, you're coming from logic. You're coming from the intellect. Let go. Let go. Please, Katrina, just let go. Don't work it out. Try it out. And that's really where we're coming to. You're welcome, Cynthia. Exactly, yeah. So when we let go of that desire for intellectual control, so much more becomes possible. And I think that is really the part where the joy is, where the fulfillment is. And I can't explain why. I think perhaps even, I know that you're a parent, so I think when we have children, I don't have children, but I really think that that places such a heavy responsibility on ourselves that we think when we become mothers, well, we have to somehow make sure that no harm can come to us. And us, I mean the family. And I think that has a scan for all these possible dangers, really. And it becomes so deeply set. I see that in so many people, this focus on what could go wrong. I just sent out a newsletter this week talking about the question from Debbie Ford that is, what is it exactly? What am I seeing that is wrong? And what am I seeing that is right? It's just like training our brains to shift over to possibility, positivity. And I'm not, when I say positivity, please understand, I come from positive psychology, and positive psychology is not making negative things positive. That is not it. We are not denying anything negative in life. We're not saying that it's good to maltreat animals, right? We don't want to make that into something positive. We want to be really clear. We don't, but we don't want to be only focusing on what's wrong. We want to also focus on what's right, knowing that our default to have survived for tens of thousands of years, our default has been to be able to scan our environment for potential danger. So that's sort of our default setting. We have to train ourselves out of that. And we can do that. So that's so good to know. So I love your comments. Let me just say that to start bringing your awareness into how you show up, find a way that helps you regulate your nervous system to get out of the fight and flight, to start relinquishing control and the need to analyze. So for me, meditation has been really a lifesaver. I think I started meditating when I was 27, and it gives me freedom. That is where I can calm down my nervous system. That is when I can stop the chatter thoughts, and that feels so good. And I can be myself from there. So for my clients, many clients love journaling, and I think that's a good start because you can get all the things out of your mind. You can also start dreaming with a pen in your hand to write it down. To me, the advantage of journaling is that if you don't find it easy to focus, when you write things down, you have to focus. You can't be writing one thing down, thinking of another. So for me, journaling has the power to focus your mind. And that's really where we want your mind to be, in a place where it can focus and not focus anywhere, but focus where you want it to focus. So meditation, journaling, Many of my clients use emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping. You start, even though I still haven't found my dream job, I love and accept myself, and blah, blah, blah. You say that 3 times, and then you go on to the point. That is another way to calm down your nervous system, which is your first step in anything, really, in any change you want to make. It is about that place where you get more and more information about who it is you really are. And this is not that little intellectual reduction of what you're aware of, right? It is so much more. So that is really the place where I would start. And I would recommend, if you take anything away from this workshop, it is that there is no safety in control. You were built for life, so let's live it with the good, with the bad, all of it. And then decide to take time, if you can, on a daily basis, to do something that has you feel safe, that calms down your nervous system. And then take it from there. You will be guided. You will have desires show up. You will have action steps show up. You will have opportunities. You will have lots of things show up once you calm down. That's really your first step. So you don't need to know the next one, really, because you have got everything you need. You've got all the, what would you call it? You've got all the elements. They're already inside of you. I mean, I can't tell you anything about you. Only you can tell something about yourself. So that is so good to know. But I also wanted, before we break, I want to show you my new, or talk to you about my new 12-week online coaching program, which I call Genuine. And I use the word genuine because I don't really enjoy the word authentic. So I feel that genuine, it conjures up many more images for me. Like, I feel like we've got genuine friendships, we've got genuine gemstones, don't we? I mean, genuine for me is so much, I see so much more value in it. And then fully expressed, fully embodied means that we are living up to our potential. We are not suppressing anything, and we are free to be who we really are. We are free to be that in how we feel and how we see ourselves, but also taking it out into the real world, which is this fully embodied part. So many of my clients, they overthink. They overthink everything, and that has them stuck where perhaps you've been stuck too, where you don't know what to do and life doesn't feel good, but you don't know where to start and all of that. And of course, you can learn techniques and you can say, oh, I must get a better job and all of that. But really, what if the solution to all of it is just to go inside and just be much more you? So that is what we're aiming to do. It is being yourself without needing approval, without needing to manipulate circumstances or people, without having to micromanage, just feeling this freedom. Like, freedom used to be my first core value. And I thought it was freedom to do what I wanted, but it's much more freedom to be who I want to be and to be free of fear of my emotions. But that's about me. This is about you. It is finding that space where you feel completely liberated just to choose, just to be yourself, so that you're no longer watching what's going on. You're no longer analyzing, and you're no longer making sure you're doing it right. Like, you just know. So it's sort of switching from belief to knowledge to knowing, okay, this is my path. This is me. This is who I am. This is what I want. Everything becomes like a million times more simple. It really does. When you are grounded in your own being, in that state of being, remember that the actors I talked about, It's not about what you do out in the world. It's really who you are as you're doing the doing. It's you being you. It's you being unafraid of criticism. It's you being unafraid of anything that can happen because you're safe. You really are. So here are a few things you can think about if that is something you want. I want you, if you're part of this program, to move from intellectual awareness into that embodied knowing that I talked about, that you're safe. You don't need to control. You don't need to micromanage. You're safe. And actually, letting go of the need to control is your freedom. Isn't that good to know? Define who you are beyond the roles you've got, beyond your expectations, your boss's expectations, your parents' expectations, and release those ideas you've got about yourself and what is possible. So we'll be looking into self-care, of course. For me, self-care is so much more than grooming. It's supporting the best version of you. It's really acknowledging who you are at your best and then nurturing that. Nurturing it so that you've really got the ideal circumstances to flourish. And I like to think of plants. Like I can have a plant that I give a minimum amount of water, like it just survives, right? But what if we really make it bloom? Like what if we give it exactly what it needs to be at its best? Like if you can transfer that over onto you. And of course that can include massages and having your nails done and all of that. But really it's so much more. It's really how you treat yourself on a daily basis. And it's what you tell yourself about yourself. So make confident decisions, all of that, set the boundaries, but not from having learnt, oh, I must do this. It's like, this is who I am, and people sense it. Don't have to explain it. They sense it. So you can show up authentically. So if you want to find out if this is for you, let me just say the price. The 12 weeks, you get, like physically speaking, you get 12 learning sessions like today, for instance, but of course much more specifically. And then you get 12 group coaching sessions. So we'll be meeting up twice a week for 12 weeks. One for a teaching opportunity, a learning opportunity, and one for the embodiment, because when we go through the teaching, you will be defining what it looks like in your life. The theme I'm coming up with, I'm presenting, you'll be looking at, okay, in my life, this is what it would look like. And then we decide on that. Then you go out, you live your life, and then you come back for the coaching and you let me know all the things that didn't work out. And then we get to shift all of that. So that is just a very practical thing to say. I don't want to overtalk this because, as I just said, we really don't want to overanalyze this. This is about you becoming more you, you feeling safe to be you, you actually knowing that being you is the best thing that could happen here on earth, and how, the how of it, how that, or what that looks like, how you can do it in your life. That is the outcome. So you will have to come and talk with me if you're interested for a 30-minute conversation. The whole program, the 12 weeks, is 3,000 US dollars. That is 2,200 British pounds sterling, and it is 2,500 euros, just to give you an idea. So that's a sort of investment it will be for you. So if you've got any questions, of course, I can answer them here, but please go ahead, book a conversation. I shall put the link in the chat to booking a conversation with me, and I shall also put in the link to the landing page I just showed you, except I put it away. So let me go and pull it up. It is right here. Let me put it in the chat. Here's the landing page where you can go and read a little bit more about it. So please don't overthink it. Maybe you feel it's for you. Maybe you feel, no, it's just not interested in this. If you feel it's for you, well, feel into it some more, right? Don't overanalyze it. Feel free to book a conversation, even if you're not sure, even, if you're just thinking about, it could be. I want to make sure, I want to talk to you so that I'm sure that what you believe you will get out of it. I want to check in with you to see if that actually corresponds to the outcomes, right? I want to make really sure that you get the most out of it. And what you most want out of it is that actually what we're going to work on. So please feel free to book a conversation. Thank you. Okay, don't worry. Yes, I will, Cynthia. Thank you for being here. It was lovely to have you here. It was lovely talking to you. So please take care. I hope to see you sometime soon in the future, and I hope to be talking to you about genuine, fully expressed, fully embodied. See you soon. Bye for now.